Minnesota School Board leader, why do we teach evolution if it's never been proven? This is from the Patheos blog. It's from the Friendly Atheist again, which I read from fairly frequently. Hemant Mehta's a pretty cool guy. This one is actually by Hemant Mehta, too. On Monday night, during a meeting of the Brainerd School Board in Minnesota, a science teacher and an administrator overseeing teachers were asked why the district even bothers including evolution in the curriculum. That question came from the president of the school board. Good luck, children. You're going to need it. Board president Sue Kern didn't get why they were teaching what she claimed was an unproven theory from more than a century ago. The clip below, taken from the official video of the meeting, doesn't show the people involved.
I did have a question with regard to evolution. Darwin's theory was done in the mid-1800s, and it's never been proven, so I'm wondering why we're still teaching it.
That is terrible. It goes on to say, Darwin's theory was done in the mid-1800s and it's never been proven, Kern said, so I'm wondering why we're still teaching it. And with regard to Christian students, how do you do that, Kern said? They're taught not to agree with that, so. Jesus Christ, all the wrong people have all the power. Now imagine you're the district's director of teaching and learning, Tim Murtha, or Brainerd High School science teacher Craig Rezick, and you have to listen to this. Do you seriously have to tell the most powerful person in the room what a scientific theory is, or how the basics of evolution have never been in doubt since Darwin's time, or that all the evidence we've ever found since Darwin's time has only strengthened the theory, or that you don't cater reality to people whose faith teaches them to avoid it, or that there are plenty of Christians who have no problem reconciling religion and science. Okay, let me just explain this real quick for people. I feel like this is an important point to hit, and I know a lot of my audience probably already knows this, but there's somebody out there who is a little bit unclear on it, so let me just elaborate a little bit on this so that there's an understanding. When I was in school, we were talking about hypotheses, theories, and laws, and a lot of people probably remember this in their own schools, but that's kind of what the scientific method is built around, right? That's what the scientific method is. You start with a hypothesis or a few hypotheses, and you cross them out until you boil it down to something that actually works and fits the models and everything. And eventually, over time, you graduate to a theory. Now, a theory is something that is based on facts that we can observe. It's a grouping of facts that we can look at and say, we know that this happens because we have these facts all laid out here. A theory is the thing that an idea aspires to be more than anything. Like a theory is the graduation point. People think that laws are higher than theories. They're not. Laws are derived from theories. Like we've got gravitational theory, we've got the germ theory of disease. And from those things, we have the law of gravity. We have the theory of evolution, and the theory of evolution is made up of various different facts. For example, the theory of evolution includes natural selection. That's not a theory. It's not incorrect either. We can watch this happen in front of us. Like literally, we can sit there and watch natural selection take place. We can watch gene mutations take place in front of our eyes. There are studies that people have done with fruit flies, for example. If you haven't heard of the fruit fly study, then you should take a look at it. We can watch gene mutations take place in a population of fruit flies, and we can watch because they have a really short reproduction cycle, because they die fairly quickly, so we can watch the gene mutations pass through generations, and the most advantageous ones will carry on to the next generation. If you're unhappy with that study for one reason or another, because they forced gene mutations, even though it was about natural selection, not gene mutations, fine. We have other studies to prove this stuff. For example, we've studied E. coli, which has an even shorter generation. We've watched E. coli evolve the ability to take in citrate, which it could not do before, over 70,000 generations. That was a huge accomplishment. And that right there is proof of The theory of evolution, which is made up of natural selection, gene mutations, gene duplication, and all of these other facts that we have observed. And then we can derive laws from theories. So that's what a theory is. That's how it works. And that's why it's so heartbreaking to see these people. Oh, look, you've got my recommended thing up here at what I was looking at. I've got like Tool songs being recommended by YouTube right now. Anyways, that's why it's so heartbreaking to see, what was it? The president of the school board saying that evolution is discredited. Just any basic science class, critical thinking at any level will show you that it's not discredited. It's fact. We have the fact of evolution and we have the theory of evolution. It's a fact. I'm sorry. And it's really sad to see this person saying this. To their credit and professionalism, there are no pictures I can find of them looking at Kern with dropped jaws and wide eyes, but their responses make it clear that's what they were thinking. The Brainerd Dispatch has the rough quotations. The interesting thing about theories is that we have to find information to disprove it. There hasn't been any information found to disprove the theory of evolution. As we learn more about DNA, it only solidified it. It's based on observation. It's based on fact. If we ever find any evidence to disprove it, we would amend that because that's what we can do with the theory, he added. But there hasn't been any evidence to disprove it presented at this time. The theory of evolution will never be disproven, quote unquote. There are facts that we can observe. I mean, I'm sure that we can amend the theory of evolution. There maybe some parts in it that need to be amended. I don't know. Maybe not. But it's never going away. We have facts that we can observe and build this theory on top of. The fact that this was said at all is an embarrassment, and it's depressing. The fact that it was said by the president of the school board is even worse. How do you even get into that position, going through college and everything, and not understand how basic science works? It's an embarrassment. This is science, and science deals with facts. It doesn't deal with belief, Resnick said. It doesn't have to be a dilemma or a concern for someone to choose between Christianity and evolution. That's not what this is about. You can actually embrace both. It's my duty as a teacher to teach science and not teach religion. That's the separation of church and state. Thank you. This dude is the shit. I'm a huge fan of this teacher right now. Resnick. Shout outs to Resnick. I gotta find this guy and send him a thank you letter. This dude sounds awesome. The article goes on to say, at least the right person is in the classroom. Those were smart answers to dumb questions, at least given where they were coming from. Murtha played it even safer, saying that the state required them to follow certain education guidelines, including the teaching of evolution, and the district would be in trouble if they didn't teach it. Kern didn't push back on that. Still, the fact that she even had to ask suggests that she either doesn't understand basic science or thinks religious dogma should override settled science. That's a huge liability for any school districts that actually want students to succeed. At least the people with direct contact with students understand why Kern shouldn't be taken seriously. Maybe she was trying to gauge the room. Maybe she was like just mentioning it to see how they felt, because she didn't, it says here she didn't push back when one of them said they'd be breaking the law basically by not teaching it. She just left it at that. I bet she was just saying it to see how the teachers felt and maybe decide if she's going to take it further or not. I mean, this is a person in a position of power. It's extremely disturbing that they said that. It's very disconcerting. If you like what I do and you want to make sure I can continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, you can support me on Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I'm trying to make a shirt design for every cult I've covered. I haven't gotten every one, but I'm working on it. So check it out and see if your cult is up there. Second, you can support me by checking out my game shop. I sell controller, cartridge, and game box stands for every system from the original Nintendo and Sega Game Gear to the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. So give that a look too. And finally, if you want to support me in some way other than monetarily, you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have a retro game channel where I answer questions like, why does Shy Guy have a mask? And why are CRT TVs the best way to play retro games? I also have the podcast where I talk about stuff I don't feel I can say on a monetized channel. And finally, I have my main channel where I talk about cults. I wish I didn't have to worry about dancing around subjects carefully in the first place, but I chose to do this as a full-time job, so unfortunately I rely on YouTube's AdSense and on the support of patrons to continue doing the work I do. Anyways, check me out in all those places if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, guys.